Hello, everyone. Good morning to you and welcome to Kakaaki, the African Voice on Africa Independent Television, AIT. I'm Onoshorena Obozege. Now, Africa in the past has often been referred to as the dark continent, sometimes for the limited discovery of its lands and people, other times for the skin color of the majority of its inhabitants. But these days, the darkness of the continent seems to be the limited access its people have to power supply to light Africa up. Nigeria is not left out of the darkness of power supply, has in recent times taken a turn for the worse. Despite vast untapped potential, over 600 million Africans lack electricity access with limited infrastructure, low per capita consumption, and significant investment gaps in sustainable energy. In an attempt to change this situation, Africa is rapidly expanding its renewable or green energy sector, driven by immense solar, wind, hydro, and geothermal potential. As the global push for green energy intensifies, experts say that it's not enough and are calling for bold reforms and private investments to end energy poverty and fix continent refining and power gaps. Some of these experts came together to analyze the situation and recommend ways which Africa in general and Nigeria in particular can navigate its way to green energy sufficiency and at the same time overcome the challenges of balancing its climate goals with the urgent need for industrial growth. The energy problem in Nigeria and indeed Africa as a whole will engage our attention when we're joined by Dr. Marcel Okeke, who is an economist, business strategist, and public affairs analyst. Also joining us in the discussion is Olusegun Okunade, who is an energy affairs analyst as well. Again on the program, we've seen now that for decades, governments in Nigeria have relied heavily on the involvement of traditional leaders to successfully execute its immunization programs against various diseases. Over the years, the focus has been in the north of the country, where the traditional leaders played a major role in the successful fight against polio and other dangerous diseases. With the outbreak of other diseases and the need to protect all Nigerians, government is stepping up effort to improve primary health care delivery with a new collaboration with Southern traditional rulers aimed at strengthening community-level health interventions. On Tuesday, the Southern Nigeria Traditional Rulers Council Primary Health Care Committee was inaugurated with a pledge on all sides to make the collaboration work for the greater good of all citizens and residents. The committee represents a strategic platform to leverage traditional leadership in promoting immunization, maternal and child health, as well as community-based health systems. The move is expected to boost immunization, internal and child health, and grassroots awareness too, highlighting the growing recognition of traditional rulers as key drivers of community mobilization and behavioral change. How prepared are the Southern traditional leaders for this new role? Are the health authorities planning to adopt an approach similar to its engagement with the Northern traditional leaders? What diseases are targeted for immunization and eradication? These are some of the questions we will be putting to a member of the newly constituted Southern Traditional Rulers Council Primary Healthcare Committee, the Ezaro of Arochukwu Kingdom, Dr. Eberechukwu Oji. Now remember that you can be a part of the show as well, and that will be by sending your views, your comment, and all your reactions through our social media handles on Facebook, X, Instagram, as well as on YouTube. On YouTube particularly, we at Africa Independent TV, and definitely we'll have your comment read live on the show. Now, let's join out what news to see what's coming from around the world. This is the World News on Kakaaki, the African Voice. You're welcome. Major Russian oil refinery on the Black Sea has been hit for the third time this month by Ukrainian drones, causing a massive fire and forcing the evacuation of people living nearby, local officials have said. Earlier strikes in the past 2 weeks and the Tuamse refinery caused a big oil spill in the sea, and residents reported black rain falling in the city and leaving an oily residue everywhere. The Kremlin accused Ukraine of further increasing the oil shortage in the global energy market and provoking further destabilization. Ukraine's military confirmed the latest drone strike, saying such refineries helped fund Russia's full-scale invasion launched in 2022. More than 160 firefighters were deployed to extinguish the blaze. Krasnodar Regional Governor Vietnam Kundrasev said on Tuesday no casualties were, however, reported. The United Arab Emirates has announced its will to withdraw from OPEC and wider OPEC Plus alliance next month, ending nearly 6 decades of membership in the influential oil-producing bloc. The decision reflects a strategic shift as the country seeks greater flexibility to expand production and meet rising global energy demand.
Officials in the UAE say recent investments in production capacity have positioned the country to play a larger role in global energy markets. But existing quota restrictions have limited its output. By leaving the alliance, the country aims to pursue independent production policies aligned with its long-term economic goals. The move is widely viewed as a major setback for OPEC, with analysts warning that it could weaken the organization's ability to coordinate supply and stabilize prices. Energy researchers describe the development as a potential turning point, suggesting it may signal broader fragmentation within the group. OPEC, founded in 1960 by Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Venezuela, has long served as a mechanism for oil-producing nations to manage supply and maintain price stability. The UAE joined in 1967, and its departure will reduce the group's membership while removing a significant share of its production capacity. The decision also carries geopolitical implications, coming amid ongoing disruption in global oil supply linked to conflict in the Middle East and shipping challenges in the Strait of Hormuz. Economists say the UAE's exit may not immediately affect supply due to existing constraints, but it could lead to increased production and market volatility in the long term.
And police in Greece have arrested an 89-year-old man following a double shooting which left 5 people injured. The attacker initially opened fire at a social security agency in the Keramikos area of Athens on Tuesday, wounding an employee in the leg, according to police. He then traveled to a courthouse around 5 kilometers away in Ambelokipi, where a further 4 people were reportedly injured before fleeing the scene and leaving behind a shotgun, according to authorities. There is a heavy police presence at both locations, and the motive for the shooting is not yet clear. The suspect's niece contacted authorities after recognizing him as the man involved, state broadcaster report. The 5 people, a man and 4 women, were left with non-life-threatening injuries in the shooting. Gun violence in Greece is relatively uncommon, as firearm ownership is allowed but heavily regulated. Comey deleted the Instagram post, saying in a follow-up that he assumed the seashells were a political message. King Charles III and Queen Camilla have arrived at the White House on the 2nd day of their state visit to the United States of America, marking a significant diplomatic moment between the 2 allies. They were received by President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump, with the leaders exchanging greetings and a carefully choreographed display of unity.
The visit comes at a time of strained relations between Washington and London, largely driven by tensions surrounding the ongoing Iran conflict and broader geopolitical disagreements. The monarch is expected to play a key diplomatic role in easing those tensions during high-level engagements scheduled throughout the visit. Following the formal visit, King Charles III is set to hold bilateral talks with President Trump, focusing on reinforcing long-standing political, military, and economic ties. The meeting is expected to lay the groundwork for renewed cooperation as both nations navigate complex global challenges. A central moment of the visit will be the King's historic address to the United States Congress, where he is expected to emphasize themes of reconciliation and renewal. The speech is seen as a critical opportunity to reaffirm the transatlantic alliance at a time when unity is under pressure. President Trump, speaking ahead of the address, highlighted the deep historical connections between the United States and the United Kingdom, referencing the legacy of wartime cooperation between Winston Churchill and Franklin Roosevelt. He underscored the enduring nature of the relationship, linking it to shared democratic values and historical struggles for freedom.
Former FBI Director James Comey has been indicted for a second time and will face charges brought by the U.S. Department of Justice, multiple sources told newsmen. The specific charges are not known, but the sources said they relate to an image Comey briefly shared on Instagram last year that showed seashells forming the numbers 8647. Comey has insisted he did not know what the numbers meant, but Trump and other administration officials have said the post was a threat against the 47th president. The department first brought charges against Comey in September, accusing him of lying to Congress over press leaks. A federal judge dismissed that case 2 months later, saying that the interim federal prosecutor who brought the charges was improperly appointed. U.S. Secret Service agent interviewed Comey last May about the seashell photo. And late-night host Jimmy Kimmel has defended a joke in which he called Melania Trump an expectant widow just days before a shooting incident at the White House correspondent dinner. The First Lady described a Kimmel sketch, which aired last Thursday, as hateful and violent, and the White House urged his network, ABC, to fire the comedian. 3 days later, a gunman opened fire at the White House correspondent dinner in Washington, D.C., which Donald Trump attended with Melania. Authorities have said that gunman's attack may have targeted members of the Trump administration, but he said, as the comedian, the original joke was a lie to roast about the 23-year age difference between the president and his wife. A major milestone in West African diplomacy has been reached in Abuja following the official handover of the new ultra-modern ECOWAS headquarters, a state-of-the-art facility designed to centralize the regional bloc's operation. Chinese government-built edifice nicknamed the Eye of West Africa marks a new chapter in regional integration and international partnership. AIT's Iteme Ozekome tells us more.
Standing as a landmark along the airport road, the $32 million complex was fully funded as a grant from the Chinese government through China Aid. The handover, completed this season, follows a final inspection by the ECOWAS Commission President Omar Toure.
This regional monument will serve as the institutional home of ECOWAS for generations to come and a symbol of an enduring partnership.
The complex features an 11-floor central administrative block, a 720-seat auditorium, and specialized facilities, including a healthcare center and helipad.
It will substantially enhance the operational capacity of the ECOWAS Commission and provide a robust foundation for the member states to chart the future of the regional development.
The Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Biaka Ojukwu, and other top government officials described the project as a symbolic gift of diplomacy that reinforces Beijing's commitment to the sub-region.
The handover of the new ECOWAS headquarters building is an eloquent testimony of the time-tested cordial relations that exists between ECOWAS and the People's Republic of China.
The new ECOWAS headquarters is part of the Chinese government's efforts towards deepening relations with West Africa. The new complex is expected to maximize operational capacity of ECOWAS institutions and chart the future for regional developments. Itseme Ozekome, AIT News, Abuja.
And the Akwa Ibom State Police Command says all 14 persons kidnapped by sea pirates along the Calabar-Oron waterways have been rescued through a joint operation with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. A statement signed by the Command Public Relations Officer, DSP Simfon John, said the rescue followed intelligence-driven operations, surveillance, and coordinated pressure mounted on criminal element operating within the maritime corridor. According to the command, operatives moved into identified flashpoints, leading to safe rescue of 14 victims without any loss of life. The rescued persons are currently receiving medical attention and undergoing debriefing before being reunited with their families. Commissioner of Police Baba Mohammed Azar commended officers of both agencies for what he described as professionalism and strong synergy. He assured resident and maritime operators of increased security presence along the waterways while efforts continue to track down those behind the abduction. The police also warned criminal elements to stay away from illegal activities or face decisive action. President Bola Tinubu displayed real intent for re-election in 2027 when he picked the 100 million naira expression of interest and nomination form of the All Progressives Congress, APC, in Abuja on Tuesday. A member of the House of Representatives of the Ikeja Federal Constituency, James Falike, led other party chieftains from Lagos State to pick the forms for the incumbent president, the consensus candidate for Lagos State governorship seat, Obafemi Hamzat, and for himself as he prepares to return to the Green Chamber of the National Assembly.
Wait for the All Progressives Congress aspirants. But it came to pass after about 72 hours behind schedule. One of the first respondents is President Tinubu. Just like he did in 2022, member of the House of Representatives, James Falike, had the privilege of picking the form for the president again.
For all support groups who have made efforts, who have contributed money to purchase the form, I have done so on their behalf. Political parties can come together as part of democracy. We will do our work, they will do their work, and we will prevail.
The organizing secretary of APC is looking forward to a hit-free process, while other aspirants are optimistic of the party towering above others.
We have all the forms for those that have paid for the presidency, for the governors, senators, House of Reps, but for ease, we have decided that we'll send the forms to all our step chapters.
Being the first person to obtain form as an aspirant, be rest assured, if I got the ticket, we will send away PDP.
Aspirants are expected to go through the screening exercise before qualifying for the primary election. Anoyoyo Ogiagboge, AIT News, Abuja.
The leadership crisis rocking the African Democratic Congress, ADC, has taken a new turn as the party formally appealed to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Kudirat Kekere-Ekun, to hasten the delivery of judgment in the matter pending before the Supreme Court. The party in a letter warned that any further delay could jeopardize its participation in the 2027 general elections. The appeal, described as urgent, was signed by its lead counsel, Shaibu Arwa, who stressed that the situation could cause irreversible damage to the political party's future. The ADC explained that the Supreme Court had reserved judgment on April 22nd after hearing argument from all parties involved in the dispute between David Mark and Nafiu Balagombe, alongside other respondents. However, no date has yet been fixed for the ruling. According to the party, the delay has already created uncertainty, especially following the decision of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to withdraw recognition of the party's current leadership. It argued that the action has left the ADC without a functional national structure at a critical time when the operations for the next general elections are underway. The letter emphasized that compliance with INEC's timetable is time-sensitive and hinges on clarity from the apex court. The Court of Appeal had previously ruled against Mark, describing his appeal as premature and filed without proper authorization. It also described and directed that the case return to the Federal High Court for accelerated hearing while ordering all parties to maintain the status quo. Following the directive, INEC moved to suspend recognition of the party's leadership pending the final resolution of the dispute, an action that triggered the current urgency. A coalition of youth leaders and stakeholders from the Federal Capital Territory's 6 area councils has appealed to President Bola Tinubu for a quick intervention over an impending collapse of grassroots governance at a joint press conference in Abuja. The FCT Gbagi Youth Forum raised alarm over what they termed as fiscal strangulation, threatening local administration across rural communities.
Across the Federal Capital Territory, the promise of grassroots development is increasingly under strain. Local councils struggle to meet the growing needs of their communities. Now, the FCT Gbagi Youth Forum from 6 area councils say those councils are facing intense financial pressure, burdened by a 59 billion naira backlog of teachers' arrears dating back to 2011, an obligation they warn could cripple essential services if funded from current budgets.
We ask for decisive action, a presidential bailout. We call for a special presidential intervention fund to settle the 59 billion teachers' arrears.
There are also 4 delays in the release of the statutory 10% internally generated revenue, describing it as a major setback to grassroots progress.
As it stands now, our primary healthcare center will be left without essential drugs or maintenance, turning preventable illness into death sentence for the rural poor. We request an executive order protecting the local government fund from being diverted to historical debt settlement.
According to the stakeholders, the combined strain of rising financial obligations and shrinking revenues could further damage rural infrastructure, increase unemployment, and worsen insecurity.
The issue of alleged land grabbing in Rivers State appears to be intensifying as residents are calling on the state government for quick intervention. The resident at a media briefing in Abuja also called for the need to urgently address the issue before it gets out of hands, as the land grabbers now have and move around with armed thugs.
Banish to my community. We gave the oath, give them that place to stay. Was giving them a portion to stay. Now they are fighting all the communities around them. I think we only fight there. Our matter is pending at that right hand. And it's boundary issue, not the whole of the land. So I don't know the judgment they are bringing. They have no judgment against almost community. Only any matter will fight, they will fight from no objection.
That nobody will come to an aid to help us. Who will come to help us? Does it mean that nobody can talk to those that cannot talk since we don't have mouth? Please, we are begging. Let the police IG come to help us. Aid us, because we cannot help ourselves. By that is move, police IG and others that are concerned should come and see the truth. There is no how one man can own all that land. It is impossible.
Guys move around with thugs and guns. We are law-abiding citizens. We are praying that government and police should come and ensure that all the bad boys they have in that bush or in that site are removed.
These criminals are still pressurizing us, are still threatening our life. This morning, they have gone further to remove the signpost that the chairman mounted on the land, saying that this land belongs to Rumosi, that is under the control of Obiakpo local government area. They have gone back there to remove it. They are started threatening us again. We want police posts, and the IGC.
The Commissioner of Police, Delta State Command, has condemned in strong terms the extrajudicial killing of a suspect, one Mene Ogidi, aged 28 years old, which occurred on 26 April 2026 in the Furun Delta State. The unfortunate incident occurred when operatives attached to Area Commander Furun received credible intelligence from members of the public regarding the deceased, who was reportedly apprehended while attempting to waybill a parcel containing a Beretta pistol with 4 rounds of ammunition. Police operatives were promptly deployed to the scene to take the suspect into custody. However, the police officer leading the team, ASP Nuhu Usman, in clear violation of Force Order 237 and the standard operating procedure of the Nigeria Police Force, discharged his firearm, leading to the death of the suspect. Upon receipt of the report, the Commissioner of Police directed the area commander, Efurun, to immediately arrest ASP Nuhu Usman and transfer him to the state headquarters, Asaba, for necessary disciplinary action. The officer has since been queried and transferred to Force headquarters in Abuja, where he will appear before the Force Disciplinary Committee, currently in session, for immediate disciplinary sanction and prosecution. The command, in line with the police and policy of the Nigerian Police Force, emphasizes respect for the rule of law, human rights, professionalism, accountability, and public trust. The command further reaffirms its zero tolerance for lawlessness, recklessness, and extrajudicial conduct. A joint security team comprising the Edo State Special Security Squad, the Edo State Security Corps, and the Nigeria Police Force has raided a suspect kidnapper's hideout in a forest within Ama community, Esako West local government area of Edo State. The operation led to the arrest of 2 suspects believed to be linked to a notorious kidnapping syndicate operating in the area.
The operation carried out at a hideout located in a forest within Ama community in Esako West local government area of Edo State followed credible intelligence reports of criminal activities in the area. The Special Security Squad, led by the Principal Security Officer to the Edo State government, Saturday Oko, successfully stormed the location and apprehended the suspects. As part of the ongoing efforts to curb crime across the state, speaking to journalists after the raid, the spokesperson for the Special Security Squad, Eribo Enwanta, revealed that the operation was based on a tip-off about a suspected kidnapping kingpin, identified simply as Best, who allegedly operates from the forest hideout. During the raid, security operatives recovered items including charms and military uniforms.
We've been walking like 2 kilometers in the bush before we came to this location where the master planner of all kidnappers in this environment stays. His name is Best, to warn all kidnappers to please leave the Edo State for their own good, because the governor has said no to this thing and we are taking it very seriously. We now know where he lives. He's going to look for another abode because this one is definitely going down.
The operation is in line with the directive of Edo State Governor Monday Okpebholo, who has maintained a zero-tolerance stance on crime and criminality in the state. Here's Inarume, AIT News.
And that's the world news on Kakaaki, the African Voice at this time. Thank you so much for staying with us. Up next on the program is Kakaaki Business.
The Australian government said on Tuesday that Meta, Google and TikTok could face multi-million-dollar charges if they did not negotiate deals to pay local media outlets for news on their platform. The proposal would tax the three big tech companies 2.25% on the local revenues unless they struck agreement with the proceeds to be directed to news companies to boost Australian journalism. Communications Minister Anika Wells explained at a news conference that since the vast majority of people are now getting their news directly from Facebook, TikTok and Google, the large digital platform ought to contribute to the hard work of journalism that enrich their feeds and that drive their revenue. Under the draft legislation, the levy will start from the 2025-26 financial year, which starts on July 1, and it applies to companies with significant social media or search services in Australia and local revenue exceeding $250 million Australian dollars. A trial that could help shape the future of artificial intelligence began on Tuesday with billionaires Elon Musk and Sam Altman at odds over the evolution of ChatGPT maker OpenAI from a non-profit to a profit-seeking judgment worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Opening statement in Musk's civil lawsuit against OpenAI and Altman will take place in the Oakland, California Federal Court following the selection on Monday of 9 jurors. Musk claimed the Altman and Greg Brookman, respectively AI's chief executive and president, betrayed him and the public by abandoning the company's mission to be a benevolent steward of all for the benefit of humanity and turning it into a wealth machine for themselves and investors. The world's richest person is seeking $150 billion in damages from OpenAI and Microsoft, with proceeds going to OpenAI charitable arm. He also wants OpenAI to revert to a non-profit, with Altman and Brookman removed as officers and Altman to remove from his board. Musk, Altman and Microsoft chief Satya Nadella are among the witnesses expected to testify, with Musk taking the stand as soon as this week. And sterling eased against a stronger US dollars on Tuesdays as market attention focused on central bank action, including from the Bank of England, while uncertainty over the Iran was perished. The British pound was last 0.3% lower against the dollar at 1.34488 and a little charge against the euro at 86.55 pence. The Bank of England on Tuesday is expected to keep interest rates steady, but markets will be paying close attention to any guidance or comments from the central bank about how the Iran war may impact the economy and monetary policies. Beside the Bank of England, various other major central banks are set to stay on hold this week, including the European Central Bank and US Federal Reserve. In Nigeria, the Nigerian government is capping jet fuel prices and introducing 30-day credit window for airlines to buy supplies on credit as it tries to avert flight disruption caused by soaring fuel costs. The intervention contained in a document by the Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, and reported by Reuters, comes after emergency engagement between regulators, fuel marketers, and airline operators amid warning and rising aviation fuel costs could trigger capacity cuts and broader disruption across the sector. NMDPRA said that the aviation fuel should sell for 1,760 naira to 1,988 naira, which is $1.29 to $1.46 per litre in Lagos and 1,809 naira to 2,037 naira in Abuja, based on benchmark from April 17 to April 23. The Pension Transition Arrangement Directorate, PTAD, has completed the payment of outstanding arrears from 32,000 pension increment to eligible pensioner under the defined benefit scheme. In a statement made available to the media, PTAD disclosed that over 1.7 billion naira was disbursed to more than 54,000 pensioners, marking the full settlement of arrears tied to the increment approved in July 2024. A breakdown shows that over 825 million naira was paid to more than 25,000 pensioners under the Parastatus Pension Department, while over 900 million naira went to over 28,000 pensioners in tertiary education and health pension departments. The payment covered a 13-month period from August 2024 to August 2025, with PTAD noting that 12 months of the arrears has earlier been paid in phases before this final settlement. Away from that, in a world where money decision shapes futures, the call for financial wisdom is growing louder. At the Central Bank of Nigeria in Abuja, young Nigerians are being equipped with the knowledge to take control of their financial destinies as Global Money Week 2026 gets underway. With the theme, Smart Money Talks, The global initiative is encouraging open conversation about money, focusing on savings, responsible spending and investment culture among young people. Keynote speaker and director, Consumer Protection and Financial Inclusion Department of the Apex Bank, Dr. Aisha Olatinwo, stresses that financial literacy is key to personal success and national growth.
When we talk about money, we break down misconception, we build confidence, and we equip ourselves for a more secure financial future. In today's rapidly evolving financial landscape, financial literacy is no longer optional. It is essential.
At the event, participants were equipped with practical knowledge on money management, responsible spending and investment, while encouraging open discussion about financial decisions.
First one, think before you spend. Okay? The second one, decide, is this a need or a want? And then talk to trusted adults. And that is about guidance, about advice, and about taking a decision. And ultimately, it is about preparing yourself for a financially responsible future.
Smart Money Talks highlights the importance of open and informed conversations about money. It reminds us that talking about money, that is asking questions, sharing knowledge, and learning from one another is a powerful step towards making smarter financial choices and building a secure future.
Global Money Week is an international campaign designed to promote financial education. At this year's event, hosted by the Central Bank of Nigeria, participants engage with financial institutions, explore learning platforms like Sabi Money, and gain practical insight into managing finances. The initiative also forms part of broader effort to build a financially informed population and support long-term economic development. And lastly, farmers in the cashew subsectors are demanding the special local processing agro loans that will support farmers and processors to procure more, while warning that any move by the government to ban the export of raw cashew nuts will put over 5 million Nigerians out of job. This warning came at the National Cashew Association of Nigeria, NCAN, met to review the state of the sector and policy options for growth.
Nigeria, once a global leader in cashew production, recording about 700,000 metric tons annually. However, in recent years, output has drastically declined as the sector now records between 350,000 to 400,000 metric tons. This, the National Cashew Association of Nigeria says it is not acceptable as the development is hurting millions of farmers and weakening the country's competitiveness in the global markets.
Let the Nigerian government know that without giving our processors an incentive, they can never make profit. The cost of energy is high. There is no way they can break even. It will only be at the expense of our farmers if we ban export of raw cashew nuts in Nigeria.
For them, there is the need for governments to address structural challenges in the subsector and provide targeted funding to support local farmers.
To get 1/3 of cashew from the farm, you need minimum of 10%. And if we want to process all the cashew that is produced in Nigeria, say we want to process the 350,000 metric tons of cashew that we have in Nigeria, we cannot employ more than 35,000. Why then do we want to put off 5 million employees to employ 35,000 employees?
Another issue discussed at the meeting was the significant leadership tussle occurring within the organization as competing factions claiming legitimacy is creating confusion, and this raises the question about the stability of the cashew industry. Nigeria.
In the hallowed chambers where laws are forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program inside the Parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The burden of proving that the elections have been conducted peacefully and in accordance with law must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the president.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can effectively take care of the primary health need of our people.
The questions are tough. The exchanges are intense.
Mr. President, you can have your way, but I will have my say. You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says.
But who truly stands for the people? Who is driving the change that defines our tomorrow?
Let us tell ourselves the truth. Why are we here talking about LGBT, GTBT, whatever?
Get the answers on Where Nigeria Decides on Inside the Parliament on AIT every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m.
Gender Agenda is where policy meets people. It's a bold policy literacy platform bridging the gap between decision makers and women across every sector. From parliament to politics, from leadership to governance, from peace to economy, development, human rights. From Nigeria to the rest of Africa, Gender Agenda amplifies voices too often excluded, ensuring every voice counts. Through compelling storytelling, social impact dialogue, thought-provoking documentaries that lean on data and research. Gender 4:30 p.m.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for being there with us. I wanted to introduce Shooks.
I did that before you.
Well, you see, he's been introduced already. How are you, Shooks?
Yeah, I'm fine. Good morning. It's midweek already.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I even thought today would be Thursday already. I mean...
You're waiting for the...
I'm rushing. I'm rushing.
All right, so I'm sure you've had a great start to the show.
Oh, yeah, we definitely did.
Absolutely.
On your behalf.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. All right, so it's time for us to take our first report on the show for today. And that report is on Africa's energy future, as there's a global push for green energy and it's intensifying. Experts are warning that Africa cannot afford a one-size-fits-all approach. Now, what that calls for are bold reforms and private investment to end energy poverty and fix the continent's refining and power gaps. But there is a challenge, which is the pressure of balancing its climate goals with the urgent need for industrial growth. Now, AIT's Amarachi Amushe looks at how the continent is navigating this delicate path. We'll be right back. Do stay with us.
Black continent of Africa is still battling to light up its dark spots. This is most apparent in Nigeria, the world's largest black population. But it comes with a dilemma, going green or staying industrial. It is a convergence of issues of energy, climate change, and economy. Africa needs to power up to boost industrialization, but the world expects it to restrict itself to clean energy sources only. President of the Nigerian Association of Energy Economists, NAE, Hazen Mahmoud, and Yinka Omarigbe, the association's former president, argued that while cleaner energy is the goal, economic survival must come first.
The main crux of the conference is largely around this global debate and this global sentiment around energy transition from high hydrocarbon energy sources or energy emission channels to renewable energy channels. We are not against renewable energy, and we are also largely encouraging the scaling of investment in renewable energy, but the transition must be a matured process. It must be a systematic process such that we optimize what we have, which is the hydrocarbon, to transit efficiently and effectively to a cleaner energy regime.
Once you realize that something is important, then you start acting and making sure that there is a correct framework that is put in place to ensure that everybody has access. So you put in the frameworks so that the business people can come in, because we're not talking about free energy, but we're making sure that business people will have an enabling environment to function. And this is an environment that exists not in the upstream where you are selling the crude, but in the downstream where you are utilizing the crude for your benefit, and also in the renewable sector.
But fixing the grid requires more than just talk. The founder of Geometric Power, Bartholomew Nnaji, pointed to the elephant in the room, the need for political will and tariffs that actually make sense for investors.
The regulation is fine, but things about tariff needs to be correct. The cost-reflective tariff needs to be there. But more importantly, in order to improve capacity in the country, there must be an effort on the part of government to establish investment instruments that will attract private sector investment. It's not like it hasn't been there before. It's been there before, and it can still be there.
On the oil and gas front, Dangote Petroleum Refinery is championing a mixed strategy. CEO David Bird insists that local refining and gas must lead the charge to ensure that Africa isn't just
now there is a scarcity of product. You're absolutely right. And what is worse than $100 or $120 oil is no oil. And that is being faced by both developed and developing import-dependent countries. Whether that's Australia, wholly reliant on imports, or developing countries, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Philippines, etc. So right now in Nigeria, there remains fuel abundance, and that is a good thing. Obviously, our commodity is exposed to the global price variations. We can't insulate ourselves from that, but at least we have the product.
The federal government is already eyeing the roads for this shift. Ismail Ahmed of the Presidential Initiative on CNG says Nigeria's massive gas reserves are the key to a cheaper, cleaner transport sector. Meanwhile, Lagos State says it is positioning itself as a hub for these new energy partnerships.
For us in PICNG and EV, we are looking at the transport sector with 240 million people, 12 million vehicles, 57% of them which are for public transportation and logistics. If we could focus on that and use about 210 trillion proven gas, cubic feet, standard cubic feet of proven gas that we have in Nigeria, try to see how we can use that as a transition fuel and a destination fuel as well for transport sector. I think it would be something that would make us self-sufficient, first of all, and energy independent from the global volatility for what is happening right now in the Middle East, for example.
Our role as state government today is to enable a private sector-led electricity power market. And in trying to ensure that happen, we are putting in place institutional framework. We are leading the way by implementing projects that the private sector can leech on.
The consensus is clear that Africa's energy transition isn't a race to abandon oil and gas, but a marathon to integrate them with renewables. And for these experts, policies for the future must involve a strategy that powers the continent without leaving its economy behind. Amarachi Amushe, AIT News, Lagos.
All right, from there we go to our social intervention segment, and definitely this will be one of our talking points today after the newspaper review. Stay with us, everyone. We'll see you again at 7 a.m.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Get Fit in 60 Seconds
with Dolly Phillips. Now, everyone has 60 seconds in every day to spare. So if you're ready, let's go! Well done! I hope you had a great workout. Anyway, what I need you to do is to follow us on Instagram at Alpha Fitness Studios and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Alpha Fitness Studios, for free workout videos, free dance videos, sales and promos, and make sure you join us at the gym, Alpha Fitness Studios in Lekki Phase 1 next time you're in Lagos. So until the next time, bye-bye!
Hello, great people of Nigeria. Welcome to the Leadership Clinic. Today, sleeping becomes interesting.
Have you ever wondered why money is an issue in your marriage? Money is already a tricky issue of itself, but it multiplies 100-fold when you're married. You'll have to merge your outlook on finance management, approach to spending, needs and wants with another person who grew up under different circumstances and teachings. Now, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to handling money matters within a relationship. Having a joint account may work for some, but not for others. And what percentage of the budget goes to the various expenses are decisions both of you need to arrive at. What do you need to do? Have a full disclosure of each other's financial status. Create a budget and monitor it, and talk with each other when planning to spend a big sum of money. Decide on what amounts to be spent on school fees and the children. Never leave the burden to your spouse or take up sole responsibility. I'll tell you why. Most times when you do too often, the other person or your spouse takes it for granted by saying you're always capable, so deal with it. Talk about it, share, and be considerate. Honestly, that's my 2 kobo.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.
Good morning once again, and welcome back to the show. It's Kakaaki, the African Voice on Africa Independent Television. And it's time for us to take a look at what the papers are saying. Myself and Rena will not be doing it alone. We have 2 gentlemen right here in the studio, starting with Yobosa Ewogiayen. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, great to have you in the studio today.
Thank you very much.
And also Simon Reef Busa. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Is there a party after the show? You said that you're almost robing. You're almost in Ashwebi. All right, everyone. Let's see what the pages have for us this morning on the newspaper. We begin with Daily Asset, talking politics, and it says, Tinubu kicks off 2027 re-election bid, picks APC nomination forms. Faleke provides 100 million naira for president's form. Another rider says, Lagos Assembly, Southwest APC endorse second-term bid.
All right, we're moving on from the Daily Assets to the Blueprint. Tinubu begins re-election bid, picks APC nomination forms. We have Tumsa Yayi, ex-IGP Adamu, hands that others too for governorship. That starts on the front page of the Blueprint and continues on page 8.
On this Nigeria, the same story. It says 2027, Tinubu braces for second-term battle. Rep. Faleke obtains APC nomination form on president's behalf, dismisses opposition coalition.
Now to the Authority newspaper. We have Tinubu picks APC nomination form for 2027 presidential race. Supporters paid 100 million naira for it. That's coming from Faleke. And there's a bit of another story here. UAE to withdraw from OPEC Plus amid all markets tensions, page 10.
And from the Authority newspaper, we'll go to Standard Times, Nigeria. It says 2027, Tinubu Edo APC chieftain pick presidential form.
And now to the Leadership newspaper. How APC stopped governors from buying up nomination forms. NAS members jittery as governors take charge in states. Page 4 of the Leadership newspaper.
And there's some story now from the courtroom. New Telegraph says leadership crisis. ADC writes CJN 6 expedited judgment on Supreme Court appeal. A writer says APC sowing seeds of instability in Nigeria. Party ticket, reciprocate Southeast support to you. That's ex-PSC chair telling article right there.
Now to the Daily Monitor. ADC leadership tussle. David Mark faction writes CJN. Appeals for speedy judgment delivery. Says party will suffer irreparable harm if judgment is not delivered within 3 days starting from today. And that's it from the Daily Monitor.
And from that, we go to Al Jazeera Week. It says ADC crisis, Mac faction writes CJN 6 speedy judgment. You'll find that story on page 9 of Al Jazeera Midweek today.
All right, now moving on from Al Jazeera Midweek to Nigerian News Direct. We have GAC endorse Hamzat as APC consensus candidate, page 4 of the Nigerian News Direct.
And let's see what the Observer's Time have for us this morning. It says, Army debunks false torture claims, reveals diseased soldier died of medical complications, opens doors for independent probe into soldiers' death. And just up above the masthead, it says, 2027, Article 1's judiciary could destroy Nigeria ahead of elections. You'll find that story on page 2 of Observer's Times this morning.
Now to the Daily Global. 6 in 10 Nigerian students are into cybercrime. That's coming from the EFCC boss. That's it for the Daily Global.
And now to Daily Sun, it says, NLC cries out over workers' worsening condition, says high fuel price, unstable naira, inflation taking toll on workers, seeks government intervention.
Now to the Business NG, we have oil prices surge above $111. As UAE quits OPEC, shakes global energy markets. And that is our final paper for today. Now, taking a look at the headlines from the papers this morning.
All right. Starting with Daily Asset Blueprint, this Nigeria Authority, Standard Times. All these papers have this story. And it's Tinubu kicks off 2027 re-election bid, picks APC nomination form. We'll start from you.
Well, that signals the beginning of the race for the presidential elections under the platform of the All People's Congress. Recently, they came up with their timetable. So the timetable indicated that yesterday would be the beginning of those who are aspiring to different positions to pick from. And that is exactly what they did. And Tinubu has just done that, and along with somebody from Edo State. Is he Osifo, who also picked presidential forms? And that is what fella refers to as arrangement. So yes, this kind of fella say arrangement, army arrangement. But this one is civilian arrangement. They didn't want to give the impression that only President Parliamentary will be contesting the presidency. So they got a surrogate to also pick a form. Kind of resemblance that there will be democratic process in determining who becomes the presidential candidate of the APC. So I can bet you that those are only 2 persons that will pick the presidential candidate. Presidential as a form for the APC. And so at the end of the day, the party will go to conventions and just, you know, do what they need to do.
Fulfill all righteousness.
Exactly. So, and Tinubu will be on the ballot.
Okay.
So, like I said, it signals the primary process of the APC, and I'm sure it will end at about. I mean, it will end on the May. Is it May 8th or May? Yes, May 8th. So, at the end of the day, we'll get to know who will be the presidential candidate of the party, the governorship candidate of the party, the Senate, the House of Reps, and all that. But one thing I'm very comfortable with, there was an attempt by the governors, you know, to buy up all the nomination form from the party headquarters. They will now be the one that will determine who will go for the Senate, who will go for the House of Reps, who will go for the State House of Assembly, or who will become governor. But thank God the national chairman of the party resisted it and said no. That there should be a level playing field for everybody. And even when the governor were putting so much pressure on him, and eventually they went to the president, and the president said, look, let's create a level playing field for everybody. Because there's so much panic within the National Assembly. Because those guys are also very close to the people. So if the governors are allowed to determine who should go to the Senate, go to the House of Reps, or go to the State House of Assembly, you know, many of members of the National Assembly will be you know, edged out from the race, and that will create internal crisis for the APC. But the party has resolved that. That's opened the nomination form for everybody. Whoever wants to pick form should go there and pick, and fix the APC members during the primaries. And at the end of the day, let it be a collective decision of the APC member in determining who should be the presidential candidate, who should be the governorship candidate, Senate, House of Reps, and the State House of Assembly.
You know, listening to you, yeah, Chooks.
Yeah, let's just come to Simon Reef now. With what he has said, we've seen yesterday the Lagos State Governor talking about consensus candidates with Dr. Hamzat. We saw in the past as well the State Governor talking about a consensus candidate, therefore squashing the hopes of the likes of Yabo Obasanjo, you know, and call. Last week, we even saw a senator resign from the APC due to internal, you know, issues, saying, but people did say, oh, probably because the governor was picking up the forms and all of that, deciding, but does it still show that the APC still has issues, even though there has been that declaration that everybody should be allowed to have, you know, a say or a run for these various positions going to 2027?
Yes, there are issues, and it is in a bid to reduce the tension. That was what the president came up and said, let everybody be given a fair ground to contest. I'm aware that some members of the National Assembly, because before their negotiation to join the APC, we are promised automatic tickets. But the president said, no, there is nothing like automatic tickets. Consensus only happens if all the aspirants agree to that. Now, when I read what happened in Lagos, I saw a group of elders saying they are not only buying nomination form for Dr. Hamzat, they are also buying it for the president. And earlier in the day, we also read that Faleke has also bought nomination form. So I really want to know, how have retirees become so rich? I know I question that they'll be able to, from their own little thing they are having, they have been able to get 100 million naira. Well, that is politics. The truth of the matter is that if the ADC, as a political platform, had passed what it is presently involved, things will have changed a little bit. The story that Tinubu is brazen up, we all knew before now that there was no opposition against the president. It's just like in the US. You don't go and throw away the current president, except if he comes up and say, well, I am stepping down, just like we had the last time where Biden, in the last minute, because of his health challenge, he came up to say, okay, I am stepping down. Now, whether we like it or not, politics is politics. They were going to play this politics on the last time. We've seen the PRP. I just read this morning that I think Baba Ahmed has just ported to PRP. So a lot of things are going to happen. And yesterday also, the speaker of one of the faction of ADC said there are attempts to bring crisis in the PRP. So that's to tell you that we still have days to go, and we're definitely going to witness that. But what I'm very, very sure is that it's commendable that the president or the APC has come up to say, hey, let everybody be allowed to play. And by denying the governors the opportunity of buying this nomination form, because in the past, what they had wanted was just to buy the nomination up, then give to their preferred candidate. But again, that is not the end, because at the end of the day, it's the people that matter, that will speak. And when there is a platform that carries their dreams, their vision, I can tell you the opposite. The only thing I am praying is that ordinary Nigerians that have outsourced democracy to the ruling elite will rise up and say, no, let our voices be heard.
You know, in February, we read in the news, of course, we saw the Kogi State Governor, Ododo. He was in Abuja. Before then was the news that, some youths in our area contributed 100 million naira for the re-election form of President Tinubu. And then in no time, they made their way from Kogi State to Abuja. They met with the national chairman, Iluwata. And he confirmed that the money has been paid into the APC's account for the re-election. I mean, it seems like the president is raising money, like crowdfund me for re-election. But even beyond that, maybe a more serious conversation, is looking like the governors had to, more like wholesale, they bought the forms wholesale so that they can retail them to their preferred. Is that not against democracy?
No, they are not retailing it. It's a way of control. Okay. They buy the forms and they say, hey, you are my man, give it to him. But the present living conditions of the Nigerian masses will make it impossible for even governors to control the people, for even politicians to control the people, if they insist, if the people decide to rise up. Because we've seen in this country where somebody has bought form for someone, the man was still in prison, the FCC were looking after him, and he was winning election well in hiding. I mean, that is sad. It just tells you how governors have come up to take charge of the process. But I'm very, very happy. I'm extremely happy that the governor this time around are being curtailed. Because the president knows that if you allow the governor to do, certain things may come, that there will be problem, and he may not be able to change it. If you look at Nasarawa State, the governor came, he said this is his preferred candidate. There is nothing wrong. He took the preferred candidate to the president. I'm talking of Senator Aliyu Wadada, and the president said, but the other secretary said, no, give us a fair chance. We too want to contest. And we read today in the papers that the former IGP man is still in the race. That's to tell you that they must ensure internal democracy. Because if they don't, they will expect what I call a devastating implosion that will be very difficult for them to manage. So it's in their own interest to be doing what they are doing.
Okay, so with all the defections that happened to the APC, is this now a sign to show that, okay, those who were in the party, probably you had governors defecting from other party to the APC, that the president still has those who were in the party before those defections at heart for their own ambitions as well?
Well, I think first we need to look at the reason for defections to APC in a very large, from different political parties, especially from the opposition parties. I've covered politics where transition during the military era, and from 1999, I have also covered politics up to this moment. But I can tell you that I have never seen this kind of what I would describe as political rascalities on the part of the APC. I use that word deliberately, because if you are strengthening your party, and in a way, there's this perception out there, and that perception is huge, that the APC is also making opposition party very unattractive, so that their party will be the only viable party that people can run to. ADC has been crippled, the PDP has been crippled, SDP has been crippled, Labour Party has been crippled, and recently the PRP has also been there's an indication that there's going to be a division within that party.
Now that you mentioned it,
yes.
I think that definitely takes us to our next story, which is coming from other papers this morning, saying leadership crisis, ADC writes CJN seeks expedited judgment on Supreme Court appeal. They are afraid in their letter to the CJN that they might not be able to field a candidate this election year.
So that is the point I was driving to. So even during the Obasanjo government, Obasanjo that was regarded as one of the, who was very strong when it comes to understanding the politics, he allowed opposition to be part of the contest. And at the end of the day, it was true that he ran the elections and people were defeated. But I expect the APC to also allow opposition to be part of this race. Even if they are going to ring the election, let them be part of the race. Look at, there's also this wide perception that the judiciary is being used to also scuttle the opposition. You created crisis within, other opposition parties, and you ask them to go to court. They are in court. Look at what the Supreme Court is doing. The last time they adjourned this ADC's election was almost about over a week now. So over a week, and when you know that the time frame with the annex set for people to present their candidate and do their primaries is almost about less than 2 weeks. And you are still leaving the parties in a state of confusion. They don't even know where they stand. So I expect the judiciary to take this matter as a matter of urgency. Expedite actions in determining the issue so that people will know where they belong to. If the judiciary say, oh, the ADC, the President David Mark is not recognized, so that they cannot, they also have an opportunity to decide whether to move to another party or not. But when you now leave everybody, create a kind of suspect within the party, there's also this perception out there that the judiciary is also being used to scuttle the opposition. And that is what Article is alluding to. So the point I'm making is that there is also a security implication of what is happening now. If the oppositions are totally crippled and you disallow them from being part of this race, of course, those people will also have a way to also fight back. And it will not augur well for our country. Yeah. And that's why I'm using this opportunity to appeal to those political forces who appear to be working for the APC, to exercise caution as far as this issue is concerned. Because democracy is about collective decision. Let Nigerians be in a position to take that decisions on who they want as their presidents, as governors, as senators, members of House of Assembly, and all that. And the only way you can do that is to create a level playing field for all the parties. So I'm insisting that the opposition must not be destroyed. Yeah, it is in the interest of our democracy to allow opposition to be part of this race. Yes, they have 36. How many governors do they have now? They have 34, 33 governors. They have all 87 senators. They have members of the House of Reps. But even at that, why are you still afraid of allowing the opposition to be part of this race? So, and that is my concern, and I'm sure that is the concern of so many Nigerians. An article has alluded to that, warning the judiciary not to be allowed, not to allow itself to use, to destroy the opposition parties.
Right, in a post yesterday on X. But when you say that OBJ rigged elections, I'm guessing that he would beg to differ with you.
No, he said he can't even himself admitted that the election, even the person that he rigged the election for, Yaradua, told everybody that that election was not free and fair. So what are we talking about?
Just to add on to what, if you look at rigging of elections, it's part and parcel of the Nigerian democracy.
Democracy
itself, the way we every election in Nigeria.
Rigging is not part of democracy. It's not part of democratic values.
I am telling you this. No, please, you have made your point. Allow me to make my point. Allow me to make my point.
Yeah. Okay.
In a democracy, it's supposed to be the voices of the people that matter.
Absolutely, you are right.
But in Nigeria, rigging has been introduced to be a part of it. You just said that almost all the elections we've held in this country, there have been questions. And that is why the National Assembly, the lawmakers, are trying to do certain things so that they can amend the Electoral Act. But still with that, we've seen a member of INEC come and say, no, Section 63, where that there are still problems with that. So it's a process. We hope that as democracy is allowed, in the journey of democracy, we'll be able to eliminate all those blocks that encourage, that allows for rigging. Those people who tell you, oh, they rig. People only rig in the area where they are strong. That is the fact. So whether we like it or not, rigging has been there. Yes, it's very, very bad. It's evil. Even the Obasanjo you're talking about said when they are going to do election, they say money for police, money for this, money for... He came up and has said it. So it tells us that our democracy is not devoid of all, of all this rigging. So all I ask, or all I'm appealing, the people whose voices should matter are the electorate. They should rise up and do what is needful. This will not have been what we are experiencing if the National Assembly, if the state lawmakers are doing what they are asked to do. But the lawmakers are in bed with executives. Well, the state lawmakers are with the governor, the National Assembly, the federal lawmakers are with the president.
All right, let me bring in our viewers from our YouTube channel, Africa Independent TV. Let's see some of the comments you've left there for us. I'll start with Victor Taimba this morning. It says, the way the politicians cooperate in solidifying their positions, if this same zeal is applicable in fighting insecurity in the country, Nigeria would have been a safe haven. Benjamin says, APC seems to understand the game more than the other parties. If not, why is it that all the opposition does is to complain? Now, wow. And then we have Ini Ade. It says the opposition are just a bunch of unserious fellows shifting all their inadequacies to the ruling party. And then Udwaki says, allow the opposition to run, simple and fair. Again, we have Babatunde says, Iyobosa and his biased analysis against APC. Now, wow, you will never blame those who cause problems for themselves. Some of the problems in ADC started before Tinubu came to power. Another one says, a game is a game, bro. Let opposition bring up their own game, too. That's political and politics at all levels of life.
Well, somebody said ADC problem started before President came to power. Where was ADC from? When was ADC formed? So some people who comment on the social media, some of them deliberately come online, where some of them has been sponsored by different political interests to monitor what is happening in every television radio station so that they can also begin to defend their presupposed interests. That's what they do. I'm very familiar with the game. But having said that, I am not a member of the APC. I am just speaking to what is happening. I mean, the newspapers are mirrors of what is happening in the society. And as an analyst, we should also be able to also speak to the issue. Now, when we're talking about rigging as part of our democracies, yeah, I agree. There's rigging, it has been rigging in all the elections in Nigeria. But the point I'm making is that rigging shouldn't be identified with democracy. Because democracy is about free and fair elections. Free and fair elections. The INEC should do the right thing. The judiciary should be able to monitor what is happening. And at the end of the day, everybody we create the enabling environment for the electorate to determine or to perform or exercise their civic responsibilities in determining who becomes what in an election. And that's what politics is all about, collective decision. So when we now begin to talk about, rigging is part of our democracies, then there's something wrong somewhere.
Perhaps the definitions on paper and in reality.
Yes, reality. So whenever there's rigging in any electoral process, it is no longer democracy.
Okay.
That's excuse me. That was the point I was trying to establish.
Let me just clarify what he said. I didn't say that rigging should be part of democracy. That is not it. You understand?
Yeah.
The essence of a Nigerian democracy is for power grabs. That is what democracy is all about.
That's the reality of what
that's the reality on ground, as opposed to the ideal.
I'm sure we understand you.
If at the end of the day, there is rigging, we now say, well, there has been rigging. But that does not mean that we are happy that there's rigging. Okay. But again, certain things must be done to extricate such monster from our electoral process.
Paper and reality.
All right, so let's move to our next story, which is a bit of a concern, or should be a huge concern. 6 out of 10 Nigerian students are into cyber crime. The EFCC boss speaking there, and that's the story that was on the Daily Global as well. Big concern. But then again, what are the facts, that was used to arrive to such figures?
Okay, let's not talk about whether it's the fact or because the people who brought up these stats know certain things. They know more than us. if 6 out of 10 people are involved in cybercrime, it's very, very serious. I visited someone somewhere, I think in Karo, around Nyanya. And we went to a particular place. He said, that this area is for Yahoo boys. I said, Yahoo boys? He said, yes. And the houses there are looking very good. And so many things are really happening there. Now, when you have a society where materialism is what is assessed as an art of excellence, that is what you have. Why? If you have these Yahoo boys who have taken to cyber crimes because there are no jobs, even if there are jobs, how much are they being paid? Most Nigerians are being paid 70,000 naira, and to come to work, they spend 7,000 naira a day. Is that not the way of encouraging corruption? No, that is a great way of working. I picked someone who was going to work. He works in a government agency. I asked him, why are you? He said, no, that he thanked me so profusely. So I was asking him, no, but there's nothing now. He now told me that his salary is 120,000. He spends 60,000 naira for transport. Can 60,000 naira take him home at the end of the day? No. Because by the time he feeds his family, by the time he lives in a house of about 800,000 and many other things, what happened to the rest? So if this man has an opportunity to steal, will he not even steal, not even the agency, but the same country? So when we are asking government intervene, and all the president is telling us that we are not worse off than Kenya. I mean, it's incomprehensible. So the whole idea of 6 out of 10 Nigerian students getting into cyber crime is not shocking. Okay. The figures may even be higher. For me, because when certain things happen, definitely people must react. And if they have to react, because they need to survive. So it has become a sort of instinct of a thing.
For me, I have a problem with this headline. I'm aware that the current leadership of the EFCC is doing a very good job. I think it has introduced very good dimensions in the disagree. I don't know where he... because I know that in spite of what is happening, there are still some good students. I'm involved in some... There are still some good students. You know, I think we should be very careful not to stigmatize young people, or in the name of advocacy against cybercrime. We should be very careful not to stigmatize young people, young students. And that is why the police have become so vicious. If you see them on the checkpoint today, the cars they will stop are cars that are occupied by young people. They believe that everybody who are young people who are inside the car.
You look a certain way,
yes,
you're branded
they will stop you, they want to search you, they want to look at your phone. It is because of this kind of stigmatizations that the FCC is pursuing that is responsible for that. There are bad boys, I agree, there are bad students, I agree, but there are still so many good students who are out there. So in an attempt to, carry out advocacy against cybercrime, we should not stigmatize young people. We should not label young students who are still doing very well in their various students, in their various schools as Yahoo boys. There are still some good students. So I disagree with this figure, that 6 out of 10 are Yahoo boys. I disagree totally, unless he wants to come out with a statistics, that will prove that, that will convince me about these statistics. But like I said, the man is doing the FCC board is doing a very good job. He's been doing a very good, carry out some reform within the FCC. But we should not stigmatize our young people. Okay. We should not give the license to other security agencies to begin to harass students on the street. Yeah. Once you see a student carry a laptop or that person is suspended as Yahoo boy. I mean, for me, I don't subscribe to that.
All right.
I think we need to be very careful.
All right. Thank you so much, Yobosa Wagian and Simon Reef Musa for joining us this morning. I appreciate you for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You may now proceed to your parcel. All right, everyone, thank you so much for being there with us. If you started the program with us, we did mention that we'll talk about green energy for Nigeria this morning, and we have a guest that will be joining us virtually to discuss Nigeria, Africa, and renewable energy. We have Olusegun Okunade, Energy Affairs Analyst, as well as Dr. Marcel Okeke, Development Economist and Energy Affairs Analyst. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on Kakaaki, the African Voice, this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on this program.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, and it's a great pleasure to be with you this morning.
All right, thank you so much. Let's start from Olusegun. How far behind is Nigeria and Africa, in the renewable energy world?
Thank you very much, and once again, glad to be with you this morning. To respond to your question, sincerely speaking, the country is far from this renewable energy, even though we might see within the holistic area the implementation of some of this renewable energy. And the fact to this is quite simple because of the cost of implementation of some of these renewable energy. Averagely, if you look at the cost of having solar panel, inverter, that can take you off grid or that of alternative power supply like the genset does not come cheap. If you need to have an investment of a solar panel that will take about 5 kVA, you run about 3 to 4 million, and you ask yourself, what is the take-home of an average citizen to actually acquire this? If you ask me, it is the way to go, but the availability, accessibility, the price, affordability of some of these renewable energy are not on the part of an average citizen. And I think that is why as a country, Nigeria, and even Africa, we seem to be far from it compared to the developed world and even some of the Asian countries.
All right, let's come to you, Dr. Okeke. In one of the reports that we highlighted just before you joined us, we see that African experts, as regards this, they are saying that we have like one size fits all approach cannot work as regards this. And as Mr. Olusegun highlighted and briefed us, why do you think this case is so? Sure.
Well, if I got your question very well, talking about Africa or countries of the world having one way, of getting and utilizing green energy. Yes, it's one thing for everybody to be looking at one model or pattern of getting green energy. But one thing that we seem to be playing down in all of this is what is called political will. Let me use Nigeria as an example. Until we started experiencing the collapse of the national grid countless number of times. That was when the seat of power, the Asarok, decided to leave the national grid and go solar, So really, I want to say that it's the circumstance, the situation in individual countries or domain that will really determine the pace at which they go in this transition to renewable energy. It's one thing to have a certain pattern in mind, but it's another thing for the reality on ground, to permit you to go that way. Just like my colleague said, the affordability, the cost of going solar, for instance, the accessibility, for going solar. And then I must tell you that a country like Nigeria is in stock in its own ways, and that is our being entrenched in being entrenched in everything about oil and gas. So we have no immediate pressure to move forward, except the situation of the grid collapsing that moved Asharok to go solar. You understand? So the entire country is stuck in its old ways of hydrocarbon. That is mining, drilling oil, sharing the oil money, everybody going after oil money, and forgetting that the world is moving forward. So I think that is what will be happening in all the countries, of the world. So they have to go on their own pace as dictated by their local condition, So it doesn't really mean that, like you said, one model fitting all, and that all the countries of the world will move at the same pace and in the same direction. It will be dictated by local conditions, just like I've told you in the case of Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Okeke. Now, we know that there's this push and clamor for the shift to renewable energy, but I don't think there's any country in the world who has entirely moved to renewable energy or other sources of energy. So why is that pressure on Africa and, Nigeria as well to be able to move from other sources of, energy?
Well, if I agree with you that there's that pressure, for countries of Africa to move to renewable energy, the rest of the world, the developed world, we want us to move in tandem with them. Something like democracy we are practicing. How did it come about? We also not say that we are pressured to go into it. And you see the way we are practicing it. So that is how many things are done in the world. It's the developed countries that usually push the undeveloped or developing countries to go their own way, But that notwithstanding, individual countries have their own challenges. They have their own local conditions that really dictate the pace at which they go, whether it is in this green energy thing we are talking about or development generally, because when you have situations like you have now, the situation in the Middle East is affecting various countries of the world in different ways and dimensions. And so there's no way anybody will force, African countries to do what they cannot do. Yes, they will wish that they do so. They can use, all kinds of means to push them. But at the end of the day, it's the local condition that will determine the pace at which any country goes in going in the way of green energy. It's not, the pressure could be there. But there are reasons for pressurizing or pushing the African countries. I will tell you that I know. But the truth is that local conditions will really determine the pace at which countries, whether it's in Africa or wherever we go, in the direction of blue energy. Thank you.
All right, now to Olusegun. There's been a lot of money spent, especially here in the country, in Nigeria, with the power sector, and we really do not have anything to show for it. We continue to have incessant, power grid collapses and all. But why do we continue to have this?
Thank you very much. I think first and foremost, we speak to accountability.
Okay.
There is one thing for you to invest in something. There is another thing for you to follow through, to see that there is actualization of that which you invested in. Let me make a practical example of the way you run your business in the office. I'm sure if your management gives you certain funds to invest in the production arm of this organization, they won't go the route of disposing more without saying what the initial disbursement. As a matter of fact, your internal control person might decide to checkmate the activity, not for the finance to disburse the funds because you have not made retirement. So I'll speak to the fact that we've had incessant failure on the part of great improvement in Nigeria because there has not been series of accountability on some of the investment claimed by the government. I'll take you back memory lane. During the administration of former President Obasanjo, I'm sure you know the number of millions of dollars that was invested in improving the grid from where it was to where it is. And up till now that we're still speaking, we have not in any way even exceeded the 4,000 megawatts when the projection should have been about 10,000 to 15 megawatts to even improve what we have been generated. And if you look at the other aspect of it, there is privatization, of the last arm of the energy value chain. And you ask yourself, how much have we been able to monitor on the deliverable of some of these discos in the commitment they made? Even if, as of today, there is good generation, proper transmission, which I will come to, the disco, are they really ready to accommodate the energy that is actually being generated? We thought the privatization would have improved so much investment in replacement of the old infrastructure. And I'll speak to this, that most of the infrastructure that we've had in the last 30, 40 years are still what we're still using. And the investment that we thought would come on the part of the disco are really not actually been there. I'm sure you know that one of the cardinal area of the customer reliability or accountability of energy is metering. And you know what the metering gap is as we speak. A lot of people will even tell you that they make payment for meter and they have not even had access for them to have accountability of what they have. I think the major challenge we have is government seems to be deploying funds, but not following through to see the actualization of what the funds is meant for. During the last administration, we heard about the Siemens project on the transmission arm of the value chain. Where are we on it? What is the report as of today? What improvement have we made? So I conclude to say, yeah, it's not just enough to disburse funds, but to have proper monitoring, communication with the citizen on the improvement of what we had. The former minister came when this administration came in, and they spoke more of the area of tariff, which they gave us the cost-reflective tariff. I want to believe that both parties might possibly be on band A, but are we having the availability as expected? About opportunity of traveling, staying in areas where they are supposed to be on band A, but a lot of people run on alternative power supply. And that's why you see that the cost of production on the part of some of these organizations that are in the manufacturing sector, even the service sector, continue increasing because energy costs, increase the baseline at which they make submission of it. So the fact remains that we need, transparency, proper monitoring, accountability of things that are being done, and consequences when people are assigned to do some of these things that are actually promised to the citizen. When they fail, there must be consequences, not just leaving the route. Because I would say that the minister that will be resigning possibly tomorrow left us more, worse than where we were years back when we had the likes of Bat Naji, where a lot of us thought that we are actually staying in the developed country where power seems to be improved. And I think we need to start adopting, people that have understanding of the sector to work and achieve the set goal of Mr. President.
All right, Dr. Okeke, you listened to the analysis that Olusegun put out there, and from research, you will see that Africa has nearly 60% of the world's best solar resources. Yet, a September 2025 report by UNECA says that 600 million Africans are out of electricity, and that's about half of the total population of the continent. So I'm quite concerned. What do you think is holding back the continent from converting this potential into real success when it comes to the energy sector?
Thank you very much for this question. Let me say upfront that the pattern or level of development of each country, pattern or level of development, is driven by policies and focus of the leadership of the country. Okay? while we are talking about renewable energy, the administration in many African countries are focusing on exploiting natural resources. You know, like in Nigeria, for example, what are we focusing on? For so long, we are dependent on oil, crude oil. And even as we are talking about renewable energy, it looks like a mere sing-song. Our focus is still on oil. And that is why oil still provides up to 80% of our foreign exchange inflow per annum. So it's one thing to have those resources you mentioned. You know, you could have access, solar energy, you have wind energy, you could have hydro and all that. Many African countries have all these, but because we are making so much money already from crude oil, you know, we may not have enough pressure, you know, on it to begin to look the other ways. You know, even though in the long run they will be cheaper, in the long run they are clean energy. I'm talking about the environment and so on and so forth. So there's a political side of it. And then the political will, you know, to begin to move away from what they are used to in their various countries to now begin to move to renewable energy, just because the developed countries are moving in that direction. You know, many of them we're talking about carbon emission and all that. Yes, they attend those World Bank and IMF meetings and all that, where they talk about all this. But when they get back to their various countries, they are stuck in their old ways of the raw materials that give them the needed foreign exchange inflow, and so on and so forth. And so that they have the resources to go the clean energy way is one thing, but another thing is that what is it that keeps them going now? So it's a matter of the political will. When they already have their development plan, you know, depending on other things other than, you know, the renewable energy you and I are talking about. So many government does not move that way. Like my colleague said, in Nigeria, billions of dollars are claimed to have been sunk, you know, into this renewable energy journey. Or how far have we gone, you know, to even generate power? You know where we are. Number of times the grid collapsed here. It's getting better. I will tell you, things are getting worse. That is why Ashoron Villa had to move from the national grid to go solar, you know. But how easy is it for everyone in the country to go when the cost of doing that, like my colleague also said, is so prohibitive? So, again, it is a lot of political will for countries to even begin to exploit such resources and move away from their old ways. In Nigeria, for instance, we have been attacked. We have been attacked by what is called Dutch disease, and that Dutch disease is our fixation to remain on crude oil for so long. And whether it's a cause on us or not is a debatable issue. But we're already there, and everybody is positioning himself or herself, you know, for what they can get from the oil money. So the not oil windfall, the petrodollar coming from oil, you know, has kept the economy going, and everybody has always positioned himself or herself, you know, as to what they can get. That's our own situation, and that is the situation in many African countries. So they may have attended those meetings and held those discussions with the rest of the world, but when they go back to their various countries, they already know what they are doing and why they are doing it and why they want to continue to be doing it, you know. So at the end of the day, they move on and leave the problem even in a worse state. That's where I want to stop. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Okeke. Now to Olusegun, a comment here says, can there be industrialization without power in place? Please, I don't, he doesn't like listening to this solar power solution. It's no different from my Better Pass My Neighbor generators from one of our viewers. Now, looking at that comment, is it because the major burden falls back on the end users, which are the Nigerian citizens, in terms, because these days we've heard of the spike in, you know, the cost of these panels, and also, is this just like a paper, you know, putting paper walls, you know, to just cover paper cracks and all of that?
Yeah, my brother, I think when you made that comment, I laughed on my other side here.
Okay.
Because I share the sentiment of that particular viewer. In as much as renewable energy is something that everybody discusses about, because of the affordability, I do not believe in it. I know in the last 7 years, I've had costs to possibly add my inverter, solar panel, being replaced as ridiculous amount. So as we speak, I'm off it, and I want to concentrate more on whatever I have alternatively. You see, truth be told, that in Africa, we are still on the path of going the local way of generating electricity. And if we must fuel industrialization, that is what we need to open. I was one of the people that criticized Aso Rock shifting from national grid to renewables. And I asked myself, what is the fate of an average industrial organization? What capacity of solar panel do you need to put up to power your machineries? And what is the cost implication? And I faulted that, with all sense of humility, that we do not have passion for growth if we must go that route. And I still hold my thoughts on that. We need to see how we can generate more, transmit more, and make power available to the citizen. Renewable energy is good, greener energy is good, but in Africa, the route at which we need to go is to make available the electricity that is being generated via the national grid. And that is the only way we can support industrialization. For so many organizations, even the media houses, you can imagine the panel that you need to put up for you to be on air 24 hours. You can imagine the cost implication. Who do you transfer the cost to? The commercial arms, when you have to now increase your baseline in terms of what people pay for commercial activity, which is a major source of income. For an organization that is into production, when you spend billions of naira to bring up, and what is even the guarantee? How long can this so-called renewable energy sustain you? I have put it to use. Everyone will continue to tell you that that is what is in the market. And after 2-3 years, you go back to status quo. And as a finance person, when you amortize such money, does it worth such investment? And that's some of the opinion that government needs to reiterate this idea of saying we want to promote renewable if we must grow our industrialization, to see how we improve on our national grid. As far as other countries in Africa is even concerned, they are moving more in this direction. You can relieve, grant waivers in the importation of some of these things. But what is the quality of what they are bringing in? Who monitor the standard of some of these things? I will still tell you that a lot of people, if you have a solar panel in your house, I'm sure you know what you will need to buy if you must carry your AC. Possibly you are using a 3-bedroom apartment. You want to use, your wife wants to use, your children want to use. You know the implication of the cost. It's not as cheap as going the route of national energy. And that's speaking to residential. Now come to the industrial arm, where they have a lot of machineries and equipment. We are not ripe in Africa, if you ask me, of this. They also can afford, because they have the taxpayers' money to play around with. But the fact remains that no organization, let's say we want to go the route of gas turbine, which you are seeing a lot of organizations. We have our gas being flared. How much have we converted to be used in generating electricity, even for us as a nation?
All right.
Speaking about renewable, it is good, but people like me do not have so much confidence because of the accessibility, affordability, and even the quality of what is being delivered to the people.
All right. Thank you so much, Olusegun. I'm talking about regulations, and that you mentioned the confidence in the system. One would wonder that, yes, Nigeria generates about 13,000 megawatts of electricity, for example, yet we experience the height of lack of power that we still experience, and questions around what exactly is the breakdown of the value chain in all of this conversation. But Dr. Okeke, let me ask you about policy, and to what extent policy inconsistencies and regulatory bottleneck are affecting private investment from the private sector when it comes to industrialization.
Thank you very much. You know, one of the challenges of the Nigerian economy, like you rightly said, is policy inconsistency. And that's why I said that the issue that development in each country of Africa and the rest of the world is always policy-driven. It's always policy-driven. Talk about policy inconsistency as regards green energy or other development issues in Nigeria. You will notice that there was a time, you know, in this country when we did not have this this level of challenge with our national grid, for example. So meaning that there was a time we are experiencing a better power supply than what we have today, even with the billions that have been sunk into it. Then you look at when something, I'm sorry, talking about policy inconsistency, the government of the day usually want to put policies in place to achieve a certain goals they want to be identified with. That is why every regime comes on board and goes to either drop what its predecessor was doing or find a way to play it down. In Nigeria, for example, you know that under the former President Olusegun Obasanjo regime, for instance, that our refineries, our public refineries, were sold to the Dangote Group. And when the next administration came, I think the Yar'Adua administration, it quickly reversed, you know, the transaction, the deal. And so we went back to square nothing, okay? So up till now, we are still talking about these refineries, and they have remained recumbent, if you like. They have remained dead. They have remained moribund, you know? And what is the policy of the present administration? You know, rather than reviving those refineries, the government has been issuing licenses for individuals and some companies to be importing refined product from all over the world. So you see policy inconsistency. So each regime, each administration comes with what it calls its own priority.
Right.
It's like that in Nigeria. It is like that in the rest of the African countries. And so that is why we are who we are, where we are as a country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much more. Dr. Marcel Okeke, Development Economics and Energy Affairs Analyst, thank you for joining us and sharing your insight on the program this morning. Also, we extend same appreciation to Olusegun Okunade, Energy Affairs Analyst. Thank you, you both, for your insight on the program. Do have a nice day.
It's a great pleasure to be with you this morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, we'll go on a short break, and now it's time to bring you Kakaaki Social. Do stay with us.
In the hallowed chambers where laws are forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program, Inside the Parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The burden of proving that the elections have been conducted peacefully and in accordance with law must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the president.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can effectively take care of the primary health need of our people.
The questions are tough. The exchanges are intense.
Mr. President, you can have your way, but I will have my say. You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says.
But who truly stands for the people? Who is driving the change that defines our tomorrow?
Let us tell ourselves the truth. Why are we here talking about LGBT, GTBT, whatever?
Get the answers on Where Nigeria Decides on Inside the Parliament on AIT every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m.
Gender Agenda is where policy meets people. It's a bold policy literacy platform bridging the gap between decision makers and women across every sector. From parliament to politics, from leadership to governance, from peace to economy, development, human rights, from Nigeria to the rest of Africa, Gender Agenda amplifies voices too often excluded, ensuring every voice counts. Through compelling storytelling, social impact dialogue, thought-provoking documentaries, town halls that lean on data and research, we raise the bar. Gender Agenda, every Friday, 4:30 p.m. on AIT and on AIT's YouTube channel live. My name is Adora Sidney Jack, and this is Gender Agenda. Gender Agenda. Women rise.
A good morning to you and welcome to Kakaaki Social this beautiful Wednesday morning. I am Chidera Ezudoyu. Now, activist Adeyanju has stirred reactions online after weighing in on Nigeria's power supply challenges. Adeyanju says Nigerians are not demanding a 24-hour electricity, but simply reliable power at critical times, especially in the evening and early morning. According to him, citizens just want light around 8 p.m. to stay comfortable at night and again by 7 a.m. to prepare for the day. Let's see his video.
Nigerians are not asking for the kinetics. Nigerians don't want to go to the moon. They don't want to go to explore the galaxies. They don't want even the science fiction. They don't want... See, Nigerians don't even want 24 hours light. Who told you Nigerians want 24 hours light? Can they even afford 24 hours light? Do you know how much is light on Band A? Do you know how much is light? Nigerians just want, when they come home at 8:30 in the night, put on the light so that they will not be sweating at night when they are sleeping. Then in the morning, that early morning, before they go to work, still leave the light till like 7 so that they can iron their clothes. After that, you can take the light, then relocate the light to where the factories are, the offices are. Then the night again, you bring back the light around 8:39. How can this be too much that this is what we have been laboring since independence that we cannot achieve?
Let's see what netizens are saying concerning Digi's video. Now, He Who Glows says, can you afford 24 hours light? That is the question. I'm paying 70,000 naira per month in an area that does not even have light at all. Even if they do, it's only for 5 minutes. Electricity is a necessity, yes. People who are under Band A electricity don't lack light, but their bill is very high. These are the rural areas where hotels, guest houses, estates are. B and electricity is not consistent on Band B, but at least their bill is very low. Now, they did what they want to do the way so many people can afford it. If you want 24-hour lights, be ready for the expensive bill. Even outside the country, their most expensive bill is their electricity bill. In the same line, another user says, but this is such a poor take. Even the place you're going to needs light. Your freezer at home needs light. People that work remotely need light. The list is endless. I get his point, but he used a wrong narrative to buttress it. In the same line, RJ says, well, to be fair, if there were 24-hour light, most people would complain about the cost. A lot of Nigerians won't be able to afford it. And one more user in that story says, I just have one question. Why do we easily adjust to every situation in Nigeria? Even if fuel increases to 5,000 naira, everyone just goes about their work. Why do we easily adjust to everything? I think we have one more user. Jide is saying this is wrong. There are numerous people whose work does not require them to go to a factory or office. They stay at home from 8 to 5. So what happens to them? I understand his point of how expensive constant light can be, but the person who is living home all day would know to turn off electrical appliances. Well, the light issue has been a lot going on. The federal government has escalated diplomatic action against South Africa following the killing of 2 Nigerian citizens. Now, authorities in Nigeria say the move includes formal engagement with South Africa officials demanding a full investigation and justice for the victims. The government also stressed the need for improved protection of Nigerians living abroad, warning that attacks on its citizens will not be taken lightly. While details surrounding this incident are still emerging, officials say that they are closely monitoring the situation and working through diplomatic channels to ensure accountability. This development has reignited concerns over the safety of Nigerians in South Africa, with calls for swift action and stronger bilateral cooperation between both countries. Nigerians have been going through a lot in South Africa, but let's see what netizens are saying. Businessly says, fix your country, then your people won't need to leave. You don't have this in our country for a reason. Your leader is the problem, not South Africa. Nigeria is rich in minerals. Why not use it to prosper? And Unconfirmed says, LOL, what about the killings of 190 Nigerian girls by your bodies? By Boko Haram, he meant. And now we have another user says, Alice is saying the giant of Africa, in quote, needs to do more than just send a letter. If it was another country, their ambassador would have been on the first flight home by now. Let's see if this escalated action actually has teeth. And Blue North Initiative is saying it is a sick irony that while South Africa celebrates Freedom Day, Nigerian bodies are being found in mortuaries after altercation with police. A predator in a uniform is twice as dangerous because they have a license to approach you. Now, in the same line, reports from South Africa indicates a disturbing trend as some locals allegedly target women married to foreign nationals, telling them to live with their husbands, while panic spreads across schools amid claims that Operation Dudula is also targeting foreign pupils, intensifying xenophobic tensions. Witnesses say some learners of foreign descent have faced intimidation, creating fear and disrupting school environments, as affected women also report harassment. This development has sparked outrage, with many calling on authorities to step in and ensure the safety of all affected individuals and reinforce protection regardless of nationality. Let's see this video.
Our government sees that these people, they are overdoing things in us, because it's years we were complaining as leaders to say we are sick and tired of what is happening. Our children are dying. If a man loves you, he must take you back where he's coming from. We cannot marry a man from Nigeria to be my husband in South Africa. If he loves me, take me to Nigeria, wherever. Let them go with their wife, with their kids. That will be.
Guys, this is so wrong. Shut up. Yeah. Don't be scared. Stay up. Why is they doing this to our kids?
That is very disheartening, but let's see what you are saying on social media. 1042 is saying forcefully extraditing children from school. This is beyond low, even for the mongrels. And in the same line, Henry is saying the government of South Africa is fully aware of what is going on in the country. And I tell you this in support, 100%. And we have AMS with sex, xenophobic attack on foreigners who once helped South Africa during their trying times to be a better place for them. Yet, Africa Union could not call them to order. It's a very disheartening thing happening there. Now, Anita says, I really wish it were possible for all foreigners to leave South Africa. Let them have their country to themselves because all these are so annoying. Now, these comments are from the combination of the woman and the school children. Solomon Moses says, Nigeria government, the APC is busy campaigning for 2027 election. That's all they care about. The life of the citizens home and abroad does not matter. And we have one more user in this reaction. Abiodun says, classrooms in South Africa have become the latest battleground for the anti-immigration group Operation Dudula, with members reportedly attempting to forcefully remove and block children from other African nations from attending classes. Imagine the trauma this will leave on these kids. Very disheartening. But then, away from that, the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has raised fresh concerns over the state of Nigeria's democracy ahead of the 2027 general elections. Now, Atiku warned that the nation's democratic process and electoral integrity may be under serious threat, describing the situation as an existential challenge to democracy. However, he also expressed hope that the judiciary, often seen as the last hope of the common man, will remain independent and not aligned with the ruling All Progressives Congress in any move that could undermine democratic foundations. His remarks have sparked renewed debate about the role of institutions in safeguarding Nigeria's democracy as the next election cycle approaches next year. Now, let's see what has been going on. This is what was going on. Now, Larry Oloyinka is saying, matter has heard at the Supreme Court in April 22nd, 2022. Today, that is yesterday, being April 28th, 4 working days after you are crying for judgment. Make una kuku deliver the judgment by una self now. Abi na Supreme Court send una to go and be buying black market political party up and down. The shade was for you know who. And now this user says, you helped build the APC for years. Now it's eating the opposition and you are crying existential threat. Next time, don't jump ship into a party with more factions than sense. Democracy isn't your personal retirement plan, sir. Rest or build your own from scratch. And Victor says, Your Excellency, sir, judiciary may be complicit, but you cannot exempt yourself from the negative roles you've played over time and still planning to play this season, even with the clear logical north-south arrangement. One more user in that story says, Sir, I am still trying to look for one democratic foundation. Do we have any? And now, finally, the installation of solar panels at Aso Rock Presidential Villa has sparked fresh debate as many Nigerians continue to grapple with inconsistent electricity supply. Critics say the move highlights the growing disconnect between government facilities and the reality faced by citizens, with many homes and businesses still plunged into darkness for long hours. Some commentators have described the development as an OTP, that means one-time presidency moment, questioning the government's commitment to stable light power supply nationwide. Now, supporters, however, argue that adopting renewable energy solutions could serve as a model for sustainable power across the country. Let's see this video.
Don't go do solar. You deceive yourself. Don't go do solar. You deceive yourself.
And you say if they vote and if you don't fix light, they will not vote him again.
And so
she won't do it. Don't move on.
You see the jet. I can shoot them. See all the jet we did, and I say no more generator in Villa. I pity you. I don't do solar. Your mind go day. See, when they promise you light, see what they see him.
No light at the end of the tunnel.
In my dialect, we will say Yadiba. Tell your Igbo brother to translate. Now, Akin Kaju says, Aso Rock solar power frees up more power for Nigerians to use, and it is also good for environment. The things that we should be applauding are the things we condemn and let opportunistic politicians gaslight us with. And we have Tapfik, who says, all the embezzlement and taxes from people, by people, for the government. And we have another user in the same line says, look at me being mad that I've only seen light this year, not more than 5 times. And the whole villa is using solar while borrowing trillions. Anyone that voted and still supporting this government, he pours spit. And we have one more user in the story. Okay, now that is it on Kakaaki Social. I am Chidera Izudoye. Do not forget to enjoy the rest of your day.
My baba, they always say, for market, every day gets your own wahala. Sometimes people go on scam you. But Baba say, no be by gra. You must cool down, dey sharp. Because with OPay payment, your money go enter sharp, no story. But inside market, anything fit happen. One day, we no see phone again. My baba remember OPay USSD lock, dial *955*131#. Baba press am, lock account. From market woman to driver, from small boy to big man. Now OPay, they protect people like us. My baba fit sell, press phone, collect POS, and still they teach me price. And when they don't tire am, go just tap OPay night guard. We no fear for this our hustle life. Now OPay be the people payment shield.
Gender Agenda is where policy meets people. It's a bold policy literacy platform bridging the gap between decision makers and women across every sector. From parliament to politics, from leadership to governance, from peace to economy, development, human rights, from Nigeria to the rest of Africa, Gender Agenda amplifies voices too often excluded, ensuring every voice counts. Through compelling storytelling, social impact dialogue, thought-provoking documentaries, town halls that lean on data and research, we raise the bar. Gender Agenda, every Friday, 4:30 p.m. on AIT and on AIT's YouTube channel live. My name is Adora Sidney Jack, and this is Gender Agenda. Gender Agenda. Women rising.
The issues as they break, the multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy.
And our government seem to be incapable of protecting
the scheming.
This is not a period we should say power go. Every part of this country is equal.
The intrigue.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection.
I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe we go for that reason in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live. People, Politics and Power brings context and clarity to issues and events in governance, democracy, and development. On People, Politics and Power, we feature people who shape the events and define the issues.
A lot of the agencies are still struggling with implementation of freedom of information.
The government should come. We need Nigeria to work.
We examine the interplay and interaction of politics with power and their impact on policies and the people.
It's about getting the system to deliver the kind of electoral outcome that people will be happy with.
People, Politics and Power with Imoni Amarere.
The low-performing agencies be held to account, or will the numbers fade after the headlines?
At 1 p.m. every Monday and Friday on AIT.
The 3-day summit, themed Enhancing Access to Inclusive Quality Education, served as a strategic intervention as Nigeria grapples with an estimated 15 million children outside the formal school system. While the minister noted a gradual decline in these figures, he emphasizes that sustained collaboration between states and development partners is non-negotiable. As part of these efforts, the government is deploying a new digital tracking system and a learner identification number, LIN, to monitor academic progress and curb high dropout rates.
If we're able to get these children to go to school and be properly educated, GDP will grow in geometric fashion. That will close to what you have in Austria and Norway. The easiest investment is to educate.
Governor Caleb Mutfwang, represented by his deputy Josephine Pio, says Plateau State remains committed to the cause. The state is currently prioritizing infrastructure and teacher development to ensure also marked the alternative learning alongside specific guidelines to support the re-entry of pregnant and married adolescent girls into the school system.
Education remains the bedrock, and that's why, in fairness to the president has given us all the political will. Today, in the education sector, we have the maximum political will.
With these new policies in place, the federal government aims to significantly reduce the out-of-school burden, viewing education not just as a social service, but as a critical pillar for Nigerians' future economic stability. Walkes Quackfoot, AIT News, Jos.
Welcome back. You're still watching Kakaaki, the African Voice on Africa Independent Television. And it's been a whole lot on the show from 6 a.m. up until this point in time. We've discussed so much. We looked at the papers, looking at the 2027 outlook politically, political-wise, the ADC, the APC, opposition, what it makes for them as well. Looked at the power sector, energy, how Nigeria can do better to transition from oil, gas to other sources of energy. And very interesting, comments on YouTube as well, for those of you who have followed the conversation up until now. And looking at that for the energy, Victor Hembath says, except the privatization of the disco is revisit. Otherwise, bankers and carpenters are the owners and managers of the discos, whose purpose is profit maximization than improving the infrastructure. And you can look at it with, conversations that's been happening in the power sector, talking about how the power sector is broke and all of that. So I guess that's why they're looking at, making a whole lot of money, generating funds in that sector as well.
Right. I'm looking at the comments as well, and I see Emeka Ima Kejo. It says newspaper review, Kakaaki newspaper review. Hiyobosa and all of you in the Wednesday newspaper review are to read to know. ADC was formed in 2005. They have been fighting for years. go read. Another user, Ezekiel Joseph, says, for purpose of industrialization, Nigeria should embrace the small modular reactor, which is a small nuclear power plant. And then Victor, that you read his post earlier, another conversation, it says, when you talk about policies, you measure that to those implementing it. The federal government plays politics with everything. Just imagine the recent Minister of Power, who just resigned, was a disaster, according to Victor Tahimba right there. I mean, the xenophobic attack going on, which was one of the conversations highlighted on Kakaaki Social. I see a comment, Olori Collins is asking, why always South Africa and Ghana? Sunday, Obiano is saying that this is happening in South Africa, a country where we were crying and wailing for during apartheid there. It's just the continental diplomacy for me in all of this conversation. Why always South Africa? What is going on there? They have reasons, as we'll call them minute over here, or in my perspective, that the foreigners, the male foreigners are taking our women as well. I mean, how is...
That shouldn't even be
a conversation in the first place. How is it my fault that the foreigners are taking your women? If you're approaching your women and they're not accepting you, they go for what they prefer. And I think that we're all at liberty, or change your approach as well. The woman that, the soundbite that was also highlighted on Kakaaki Social said that even their own sisters. So if a Nigerian man marries you as a South African woman, for example, they're expecting that you, their daughter, leaves their country and follow your beloved husband from another country. So you see the fight there. More heartbreaking for me was even the students who were rushed out of school, and it's just traumatizing. It's fearful. You don't know what it holds for. Like, as little as they are, I think that they're already feeling they having that feeling of trauma and don't know, or certainty really, how my parents would run with me and all that. I see that we have dogs in our house. It's always a problem. So the drivers are waiting, I'm calling, please come and change the dogs. It's so scary. So scary that if I see a shadow and it's a dry leaf that fell to the ground, I'm frightened, I'm shaking. It's traumatizing, and I hope to move on. So you see, all of those conversations, things that happen to you, you think they just happen and you've moved on. You've exactly not really moved on. You are just putting the defense mechanism there, protecting yourself, protecting your emotions to say, I'm okay now, I can breathe, I'm okay. You are indeed not okay. So all of this things should not be happening, especially to the children that I see in that trending video.
Yeah, and recently, we saw former President Olusegun Obasanjo in an interview talking about the kind of position Nigeria has taken or took in the past when it comes to being a big brother to other countries on the continent. So I think probably South Africa needs to be reminded as well of the role Nigeria has played or did play, you know, in their fight against apartheid, to learn that we're not the enemy. You know, we've once stood arm in arm together in the past, and because probably there are economic issues in the continent shouldn't, you know, warrant such issues to come up against people of the same, you know, skin color as us.
Again, the Ghanaian government is up to it, even demanding accountability and taking legal action against South Africa. But they've killed two of us right now in South Africa, and it's so sad to register those deaths. But yeah, our second conversation, Chooks.
Yes, our second conversation is on traditional rulers and vaccines. So we have joining us Dr. Eberechukwu Oji, who is a member, Southern Traditional Rulers Council, Primary Healthcare Committee, the Eze Aro of Arochukwu Kingdom. Good morning, Dr. Eberechukwu, and thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Yes.
All right. It's super good to see all the smiles right there. But talk to us quickly. This new assignment, how prepared are the Southern Traditional Rulers Council?
I think very much so. We are very prepared for this assignment. As you can understand, traditional rulers are closest to our people at the grassroots. We are the custodian of the customs, traditions, and well-being of our people. When there is any crisis, be it health or otherwise, in the community, the first port of call is the palace of the traditional ruler. So bringing primary health care concerns come naturally to us anyway. And now government is putting a structure to how we respond to those emergencies when they do arise.
All right, so how is it difficult to get the average Nigerian, to go for these routine immunization exercises?
It's difficult because our people, of course, face daily pressures just like every other group of persons around the world. And then, of course, there is the issue of awareness about vaccines and also vaccine safety. So some of the things we did discuss at the inauguration of the committee is providing frequently answered questions for the questions that some of our people may have around vaccines, vaccine safety, side effects, etc. And when traditional rulers who the people trust naturally are able to explain to our people that the vaccines are safe, they have been procured through verified channels, and that our government and health experts have confirmed that these vaccines are safe, then I think the people have then have the confidence to take the vaccines as the case may be.
All right, we saw the inauguration and we saw some of the tasks that was given to you, talking about driving vaccine acceptance, for example. But in the mid-2000s, we saw that one of the diseases that we had to focus on was on polio. But let's bring it now to the recent days, and that's polio, of course, was successfully tackled by the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. In your case, which diseases are expected to be major this year, 2026?
So this year, 2026, the immunization for measles and rubella is currently ongoing. And that will be our initial focus to ensure, just like you have rightly referred to the polio vaccination, which achieved tremendous success, that we equally achieve such success with measles and rubella. So that's the focus for now. That's the vaccination that is going on, for which we need to educate our people that it's important that our children get vaccinated against measles and rubella.
All right, so northern traditional rulers were, very critical to that fight against polio. Are the southern, rulers going to take such strategy, or is there something different that southern rulers are going to adopt?
Southern rulers, we're just coming together. It may interest you to know that this committee for primary health care in the North has been in existence for 17 years. And this year, the South, for the first time, is coming together, and we're having this committee formed. So our opinions are just being, just shaping. Our conversations are just initiated. I think, as you can understand, in the South, we are different from the North. We have over 400 different languages, various ethnic nationalities, and then having a platform where we can at least have a conversation and present a common front on the things that we agree on is our first order of priority in the South. Our diversity actually is our strength in the South, and I think what we are seeing now is that Southern traditional rulers are coming together on the issues that we do agree. Of course, we do have differences. We will work those differences over time. So we are different from the North. We have our uniqueness, and we are proud of it.
All right, at that inauguration of the council, we saw that the Minister of Health, Mohammed Ali Pate, he says that this initiative and the committee is vital to boost primary health care penetration across Nigeria. We understand the role of traditional rulers being close to their community, but one would wonder if you think that Southern Council, traditional rulers, they have the clout enough to make these people accept vaccines and immunization when the time comes?
The way you need to think about it is every traditional ruler have a clout in his domain or his kingdom.
Okay.
And if you get all the traditional rulers across southern Nigeria to take responsibility for their domain and for their people, then you will have coverage across the entire southern Nigeria. I think where you have a problem is if you expect that somebody in one part of southern Nigeria is going to speak to people in other parts in southern Nigeria. That's not going to happen. Each traditional ruler in the South sits over his domain. He's respected by his people, and he's accountable and responsible for his people. And so the idea is to reach all these traditional rulers and then make them responsible for ensuring that their people get vaccinated. That way, we firmly believe it will work.
Looking at the vaccination, process now, what's the focus? You know, most times when we talk about vaccination, a lot of people think rural communities, rural areas and all. And the urban areas also looked at when it comes to this drive, because these days we keep seeing a rise of anti-vaxxers, even in the urban areas, you know, people who we expect probably to be more educated than those in the rural communities.
So for this particular exercise, the measles and rubella vaccination exercise, it spreads across the entire southern Nigeria, both urban and rural. Luckily for us in the south, we have traditional rulers who sit over urban communities, as well as we have traditional rulers who sit over rural communities. And in fact, in southern Nigeria, the peculiarities of the Niger Delta, where you have difficulty in assessing the people because of the riverine transportation challenges, is very well considered in this campaign to ensure that regardless of how remote or how difficult it is to reach the people, that plans are put in place and the logistics arrangements are in place to ensure that vaccine gets to the people. So even in the urban areas, you know that there are urban slums and things like that. The idea is to make sure that the vaccination reaches the entire southern Nigeria, regardless of where you sit in southern Nigeria.
All right, Eze, I think at this point we should even go back to the genesis, the problems, the foundation at this point. What exactly triggered this and necessitated this? We see that, oh yes, you're going to make sure that vaccines are nationally accepted starting from your root. And we know that this already exists in the north. Was there a problem indeed that this should solve, or is because, oh, our brothers in the north have it, let's also have it in the south replicated as well? What's the problem primarily that this should solve?
So let me articulate what the problem is. So the Southern Nigerian Traditional Rulers Primary Healthcare Committee is not just about vaccines. The primary problem is when you come to the local communities, we have these primary healthcare centers. Some of them date as far back as when the colonial masters were there. That's when they were established. Today, in many communities, those primary health care centers no longer function. The facilities have broken down. There are no staff there manning them. There are no medicines there. There are no equipment. In fact, they are no longer being used. So that's problem number one. We need to restore those facilities, rebuild them. We need to staff them appropriately, and we need to get the drugs and the medicines and the equipment into these primary health care centers. That's problem number one. Problem number two is that among our people, and we see it, we have very high infant mortality. Children die before the age of 5 and from preventable diseases. And that's why you see us talking about vaccination for those preventable diseases. Problem number three is that we have infant malnutrition. Children that, due to the economic and social status of their parents, are not given the right nutrition when their brain and their body is developing, and this severe malnutrition ultimately affect these children when they grow. Then you have problem number 4, which is maternal death. Many of our women die during childbirth still, and these are issues that can be addressed if the primary health care centers work and have matrons and have maternity centers close to the people. And then you also have maternal nutrition as problem number 5 now, where some of the mothers do not receive enough nutrition for their babies to develop properly, and so making child delivery complicated, and ultimately some of these women eventually die. And then you have communicable diseases at the community level, and you have non-communicable diseases at the community level that needs to be managed. So this primary healthcare committee is us recognizing that we have these challenges, and we have been wondering, why is this challenge pervasive in the South? And then we look over in the North and see that some efforts have been made to take care of these issues in the North, and we say, why is that not happening in the South? So that's how this came about. It is problem identified, and we're finding a local solution that we believe works, and we're saying the same should work for us.
Okay, now let's look at funding, which is very critical to such a drive. You know, how is the funding going to come about? What sources are we looking at, and what's the kind of fund currently available to pursue this project?
So the funding comes in various tranches. There are federal government funding that is available for primary health care under the primary health care organization at the federal level. Now, of course, the problem is how those funds are channeled and who monitors those funds and how is it targeted. So there are some funding that is available. And then there is funding that is available from donor agencies. If you don't have a structure through which the donor agencies can trust that the fund will get to the grassroots, then that becomes a problem. And that's where our committee comes in, because then we're able to give confidence to the donor agencies, because, of course, you need to think about it as a traditional ruler. If it's not working in your community, you simply say it as it is. It is not working in my community. I have not seen funding. The primary health care center in my community has not been, is not functional. So that is also another source of funding. And there are, many of these donor agencies that will believe that subsequent to this inauguration, we will have the conversation and the mechanism to ensure that funding flows.
Okay, let's talk about trust and accountability in all of this. Yeah, we know about development communication, and if you have to be successful in this task, you will have to go to the grassroots, and you may not need the TV, you may not need the billboards to carry out that. Maybe town halls, maybe dramas, maybe just anything. Town criers, you have to engage them to pass your message down to the people. I mean, something that I do, and that's one of the ways of achieving behavioral change. Listening to the conversation on the floor of that inauguration, I hear the Director General of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. I know, saying that the inauguration is a significant step for the agency to build trust between the government and the communities. I'm quite concerned. I mean, we have trust deficit so loud right now in our spaces. How do you hope to have the people believe you that this immunization works? And of course, the conversation around vaccines and immunizations, what measure do you have in place to have your people trust you, even though they know you as their king?
Right, so I think you start from what is already established to address the challenge that is at hand. What is established is that our people trust us at the moment. And that trust comes from the fact that if anything goes wrong in the community, we will live with it, yeah? We are in these positions as traditional rulers for life. So it is incumbent upon us that before we accept any program, regardless of where it is coming from, that we assure ourselves as royal fathers, that those programs are safe, that they are the right program, and that they are worth it. And so the effort we put in to ensure that we understand those programs is very key. So for instance, yesterday when the conversation was going on, we asked that a proper frequently asked questions be developed, proper awareness program be developed, training for the royal fathers to ensure that they have the right information to answer the questions that the people have to ask. We know that vaccine resistance or anti-vaxxers, as your co-presenter said, is an issue. It's our responsibility to make sure that we separate genuine concerns from alarmist theories. So there are issues we must admit, and we have to work those issues carefully. But in terms of trust, our people have our trust, and we will not betray that trust in ensuring that this program gets to our people.
All right, so now with you affirming that your people have your trust, should we say that the pressure of the success or failure of this project is on the traditional rulers?
I mean, as traditional rulers, we accept responsibilities very carefully. If we do not believe that there is value and benefit to our people, we will not accept it. If there are genuine concerns, we will raise those genuine concerns. For example, part of the conversation yesterday was that we said there are countries in the world who, for exactly the same discussion and reasons that we're having, insist that all vaccines that their people will take will be manufactured within the borders of their country. Countries like India, for instance. So Nigeria should get to that point where we make our own vaccines. And making our own vaccines raises the level of confidence our people have of what is in the vaccine. So this is like a journey of 1,000 miles. You start with one step and you begin to address it. And I think that traditional rulers are in the best position to continue to advocate and to ensure that as a country we continue to do the right thing.
All right, Eze, we hear you and we see that from all indications, this inauguration and the whole idea sounds promising. But can we talk about training, about the structure, how we see that this success would be? And then let's also talk about the coordination with health authorities. How do you hope to handle that? I mean, the council.
Right. So the first responsibility is that the members of the committee need to be trained, and that will be the first thing that we will commence. Ensure that people have the right information, the right training, the right communication, the right understanding, to then be in a position to communicate what the program is all about. Then second is the handshake with existing health infrastructure across the country. That is also another work stream that would take time to ensure that traditional rulers coming on board complements existing structures. And we are not going to take over health responsibilities. That's not our job. Our terms of reference is clear. It's really about managing the last mile interface with our people and ensuring that health programs designed by the federal government gets to our people as it is intended. So all that engagement with the different structures, existing structures of health institutions from the federal to the state, in some instances to the region, down to the local government and to the world, those engagements will be hard just to ensure that we work harmoniously and seamlessly. And then, of course, we will focus on our primary responsibility, which is to ensure that up and down the line across the entire southern Nigeria, that all the traditional rulers are involved and that they are equipped with the right information to engage their people and ensure that their people benefit from the programs that are currently ongoing.
And we like to believe that the Southern Traditional Rulers Council is capable and ready to take on this expanded role in primary health care.
Not just a belief, I can confirm.
All right, then.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Dr. Eberechukwu Oji, member, Southern Traditional Rulers Council, Primary Healthcare Committee, the Eze Aro of Arochukwu Kingdom. Thank you so much for spending time with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, from there, we go to entertainment and lifestyle on Kakaaki, the African Voice this morning.
Welcome to Entertainment and Lifestyle on Kakaaki, the African Voice. I am Chidera Izudre. The city of Abuja witnessed a blend of elegance, influence, and high-profile networking at the Rotary Club of Abuja through Arms Zone celebrated its much-anticipated inauguration and presidential night. The event, which celebrated the installation of Charter President Rotarian Uche Nwosu, generated buzz for its impressive lineup of dignitaries and distinguished guests.
We have already begun to make impact. We have contributed in the area of youth and women empowerment, which we did with one NGO to empower about 110 women. We gave them items, we gave them foodstuffs, we gave them money. We gave them hope. That money we gave them is not all about it, but we gave them hope.
On the day of the induction of members of this club, our own son, past district governor Yinka Babalola, was around. Happy to tell you today that he is the next Rotary International president. Rotary is 121 years. The first Rotary International president we ever had was a Nigerian, our own daddy, Jonathan Maji.
Speaking at the event, which took place at the upscale A-Class Park and Event Center in Maitama, Abuja, dignitaries present at the ceremony encouraged the new charter president, Rotarian Uche Nwosu, saying that so much will be expected of him with the new leadership, which should reflect Rotary's continued commitment to service and community development.
The Rotary movement has remained a shining example of what organized goodwill can achieve
when guided by purpose, discipline, and compassion. Over the years, Rotary has consistently stood at the front lines of service delivery, often reaching where government alone cannot go.
Rotary is something that everyone that believes in philanthropy, in service, should be part of. So I'm glad to be here today, and I also want to congratulate him on this very special occasion as his induction as a charter president.
If there is one thing I like about the Rotary Club, it is their four-way test. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all? Will it fair to all concerned? Thank you. Will it build goodwill and friendship? And will it be beneficial to all, to everyone? Thank you. The four-way test is very, very important. Sometimes I sit and wonder if all those in authority, hold that as also their four-way test. Because if you're making policies, one thing that should guide you when you're making policy, you're asking yourself, this policy that I'm making, will it be beneficial to everyone?
With a mix of leadership, prestige, and social elegance, this inauguration night shapes up to one of Abuja's standout society events of the season. Nigerian actress Robbie Ebo has publicly apologized to fans and loved ones following an emotional breakdown linked to her failed marriage. In a heartfelt message shared on social media, the actress expressed deep regret over her recent outburst, admitting that the pain of her marital struggles had overwhelmed her. She said, "I am sorry," acknowledging that her emotions got the better of her during a difficult moment. Ebo's candid confession has sparked widespread reactions online, with many fans expressing sympathy and support, while others praised her for showing vulnerability and taking responsibility. The actress, known for her roles in Nollywood production, also hinted that the emotional toll her separation has taken, describing the experience as one of the most challenging periods of her life. Her apology has since reignited conversations around mental health, healing, and the pressures public figures face in maintaining a composed image despite personal battles. As messages of encouragement continue to pour in, many are hopeful that Robbie Ebo will find strength and healing in the days ahead. The Nigerian film industry is in mourning following the reported passing of veteran Nollywood actor Solomon Akieshi. Known for his compelling performances and strong screen presence, Akieshi was a familiar face in Nollywood, earning respect from the colleagues and fans alike over the years. His role often reflected deep and authenticity, contributing to the growth and global recognition of the Nigerian movie industry. While details surrounding his death remain limited to this time, tributes have begun pouring in across social media, with many describing him as a talented actor whose impact will not be forgotten. The loss of Solomon Akieshi marks yet another painful moment for Nollywood, as the industry continues to celebrate the legacies of its fallen stars. He is remembered not only for his contributions to film, but also for the lives he touched through his crafts. That is an entertainment and lifestyle. I am Chide Rise.
All right, welcome back there from Entertainment and Lifestyle. And you know, in entertainment, there's always a whole lot of drama happening there. It's been very fun with you right now on the show.
Yeah, and it's been nice doing business with you.
Absolutely. Should we shake on it on there?
For how much? I mean, I don't do free things, so...
Shake me, Joe. All right, to you out there as well, thank you so much for watching the show. Appreciate you and your time. My name is Chukwuyenum Onwoka.
And I am on no show right now, Obozege, right now OBO on social media. I will see you again tomorrow. Be good.